Well, once again, hello, YouTube. This is an emotional day in the Zack Music Studios. Not that I have studios, but it makes me feel special to imagine. This should be, Lord willing, the last video of the Crash Course in Music Theory series. Today, what are we going to do? Let me tell you what we're going to do. It's funny you should ask. We are going to redo everything that we've done with the major scale, with the minor scale. So what does that mean? That means that this video will most likely be incredibly long. So go ahead and get ready and stretch out and get you a drink because it is going to be a long video. Most likely. Maybe not. I don't know. I don't know how long this is going to take to explain. Anywho, whether it's long or whether it's short for you, it's going to be really long for me to edit and put everything together. So the least that you guys could do in return for all of the time that I spend making these videos is give me a like, give me a subscribe, give me a share, give me a Facebook. What do we do? Would you like on Facebook? Or do we follow on Facebook? No, you follow on Instagram. Give me an Instagram follow and a Facebook like and all that good stuff. Anywho, let's get started. Oh, as always, there will be practice stuff in the description. Okay, let's get started. So, the minor scale. What does the minor scale consist of? The minor scale consists of a whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, half step, whole step, whole step. Let's give you an example. Let's start on A. That's right. I broke out the piano again. I don't even play piano. So we start on the A, and then you go up a whole step. That's B. Then you go up a half step. That's C. You go up another whole step. D. Go up a whole step. That's E. Go up a half step. That's F. Go up a whole step. That's G. Go up a whole step. That's A. So we got whole, half, whole, whole, half, whole, whole. If we start on A, our A minor scale is going to be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Okay, let's do another example. Let's do an F sharp minor scale. What does that mean? You're going to start on an F sharp and go whole, half, whole, half, whole. So that means you start on F sharp, go up a whole step to G sharp, go up a half step to A, go up a whole step to B, a whole step to C sharp, a half step to D, a whole step to E, and a whole step to F sharp. What does that give you? F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp. And that would be an F sharp minor scale. Now you are all professionals at constructing and crafting your very own minor scales. So, at this point, many of you, most of you, all of you are probably saying, Mr. Teacher Zack person, when you played the A minor scale, you didn't play any sharps or flats. There's no sharps or flats in C major either. What does that mean? That means that A minor and C major, the A minor scale and the C major scale have the same notes. You're probably thinking to yourself, when you played the F sharp minor scale, all you did was play the notes of an A major scale in a different order. And you are absolutely right. Every minor scale has a major scale with the same notes. And you can think about it the opposite way. Every major scale has a minor scale with the same notes. An A minor scale is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. A C major scale is C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, which means that they use the exact same notes. One just starts on C and goes to C. One starts on A and goes to A. The same thing could be said, like I just said, for A major and F sharp minor. A major starts on A and goes all the way up to the next A, hitting the notes A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and A. And then the F sharp minor scale hits those same notes but starts on F sharp and ends on F sharp. These are called relatives. So, A minor is the relative minor of C major. C major is the relative major of A minor. F sharp minor is the relative minor of A major. A major is the relative major of F sharp minor. And you are going to have to remember that because that is going to be very important later in the video. Now, enough of that. Let's start talking about the chords that you can derive from these scales. We just did our scale. Now we are going to use the same method that we talked about in video number 4 of this series to get out the triads that naturally occur in the scale. To briefly refresh your memory, we are going to take triads. So we'll take the 1, skip the 2, take the 3, skip the 4, take the 5. That'll give us a 1 chord. We'll take the 2, skip the 3, take the 4, skip the 5, take the 6. That'll give us our 2 chord. So let's do it in the key of, E minor. So our E minor scale is going to be E, F sharp, G, A, B, C, D, E. That's our E minor scale. So if we take the first, the third, and the fifth notes of an E minor scale, you get E, G, and B. That is an E minor chord. If you want to grab the 7, that we talked about that in the same video, that 4th video of the series, that will give you a minor 7th chord, an E minor 7th chord. Next, we're going to start on the second note of the scale. That's an F sharp. We're going to take the 2, the 4, and the 6. That's going to be an F sharp, an A, and a C. What does that give us? That is a diminished chord, an F sharp diminished chord. So the 2 naturally occurs as a diminished chord. If you want to grab the 7, that's going to make it a half diminished chord because the 7 is a minor 7 rather than a diminished 7. So if you want to start on the 3, we take the 3, the 5, and the 7. What is that? We're going to take a G, a B, and a D, and that gives us a G major chord. So the 3 naturally occurs as a major chord in this whole minor key thing. If you want to take the 7, that's going to be an F sharp on top. That's going to be a major 7. So the chord is a major 7th chord. If you start on the 4, you take the 4, 6, and 1. That gives you an A, a C, and an E. And that should look pretty familiar. That's an A minor chord. So the 4 naturally occurs as a minor. If you want the 7, take that. That's a minor 7. So the 4 naturally occurs as a minor 7th chord if you take the 7. Then start on the 5. That's a B. We're going to take the 5, the 7, and the 2. That's going to be a B, and a D, and an F sharp. And what does that give us? That gives us a B minor chord. If you want the 7, that's going to be a minor 7th. That's going to be an A up top. And so the 5 naturally occurs as a 5 minor 7. The 5 is either going to be a minor or a minor 7. And then we take the 6. And you're going to take the 6, the 1, and the 3. That's a C, an E, and a G. That should also look very familiar. That is a C major chord. So the 6 naturally occurs as a major. If you want the 7, it's going to be a major 7. So that is what happens at the 6th chord. You throw that B on top, and you get the 6 major 7. If you start on the 7, you take the 7, the 2, and the 4. What do you get? You get D, F sharp, A. That's a D major chord. The 7 naturally occurs as a major. If you want the 7, the 7th, I should say, that's a C that you're going to add on top. That gives you a D dominant chord, a D7 chord, where the D, where the chord is a major and the 7th is a minor. And then that is all of the chords that come out of the minor scale. So if you one day out in the wild heard a chord progression that sounded something like this: E minor, C, C major, of course, G, D, E minor. What would that be? That was C. Yeah, it was E minor, C, G, D. What would that be? Well, if we're thinking in terms of E minor, we're going to call the E minor 1, the C major 6, the G 3, and the D 7. Now, those of my more astute students will recognize that these are all the exact same chords that you could get out of a G major scale. And you might be thinking to yourself, why would we shift the 1 somewhere else and give all the chords different names? We already know them in G major. We already play every song in G major because we're guitarists. Why don't we just think about everything in G major? Wouldn't that just be easier? Instead of thinking about it as a 1, 6, 3, 5, what is that, 7? Wouldn't it be easier to just think about it in G and be like 6, 4, 1, 5? Couldn't we do that? And I most of my theory professors would be like, no, you can't do that because that's a sin. You can't. But I would actually argue that there are situations where you could think about it like that. But there are some situations where you definitely should not think about it like that. And that's what we're going to talk about right now. And to help you understand this, we're going to have to talk about a new thing. That new thing being the harmonic minor scale. Yes, we have a new scale, the harmonic minor scale. What does the harmonic minor scale sound like? Well, it sounds like this. Sounds similar to the minor scale, does it not? But there is one difference. I'll give you the formula for it, but then I'll just make it simple. So the formula would be you start on one note, go up a whole step, then a half step, and then a whole step, and then a whole step, and then a half step, and then a step and a half, and then a half step. That's the kind of formulaic way to think about it. The easiest thing to do would just be to think about it as a minor scale with the seventh note moved up, with the seventh note sharpened. So I was in the key of E minor, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C. Instead of it being D, like it would normally be, that's this, it's D sharp, and then it goes to E. So this scale has a bit of a, I don't know, what's a good word, creepy sound to it? You know, this kind of, that thing at the end. I don't know, kind of creepy. Very minor. We've talked about minor being sad. That does have a very minor, creepy, weird, sad thing going on right there. Anyway, if you try to take chords out of this scale, you'll get some really weird stuff. But there are a few things that come out of this scale that sound really, really, really freaking cool. One of those being the 5 chord. If you were to start on the 5th note of the harmonic minor scale and take the 5, the 7, and the 2, just a basic triad, you would get a B, which is the 5. You would get a D sharp, which is the 7. That's the note that was raised up. Remember, the 7 was raised up. And the F sharp, that's going to be the 5th note of the chord, the 2nd note of the scale. You have a B major. Normally, in the key of E minor, the 5 is going to be B minor. So you have 1, 5. They're both minor. 1, 5, 1. But when you do the harmonic, when you throw that harmonic note in there and you change that one note, you get a much cooler, dominant, creepy, weird sounding thing going on. So I'm going to play that for you. You have the 1, then the 5. That was definitely a lot more, I don't know, minor sounding, strong, dominant. I don't know what to call it. But it's definitely different, stronger, more dominant than the minor chord that naturally occurs within the minor scale. And if you take the 7, what do you get? So you started on the 5, you went up to the D sharp, then you went up to the F sharp. That was your basic chord. But if you want to add a 7 on top, what do you get? You get the A. What is that? Is that a major 7? No, that is a minor 7 on top of a major chord. What does that give you? That gives you a dominant chord. So this chord is really dominant. It's definitely a lot more tension, a lot more of a desire to go back to 1, a lot more need for resolution. It's a pretty cool thing going on. And that is by far the thing that is most commonly used from this whole harmonic minor doohickey thing. There is one more thing that is somewhat often a little bit sort of kind of used, and that would be the 7. If you were to take the 7 on the harmonic minor in E minor, you would start on the 7. That would be D sharp. You would take the 7, the 2, the 4, and the 6 if you wanted to grab the 7. So the 7, the 2, and the 4 would sound like this. That would be D sharp, F sharp, and A. That's a diminished chord. And if you wanted to grab the 7 on top, that would be a C. You would have a E flat, or a D sharp, I suppose, an F sharp, an A, and a C. And that gives you a fully diminished chord. So this is the first time that we've seen a fully diminished chord. So that's another chord that sounds kind of cool. Rather than just doing a major chord as your 7, you can do a fully diminished chord as your 7 and have all sorts of coolness happening in your music. So when you are playing in the minor key and everything is sad and dreary and despondent and minory, you will often hear major fives in place of naturally occurring minor fives. You would often hear diminished sevenths in place of your naturally occurring major sevenths. Why? Well, they come out of this harmonic minor scale, and they sound pretty darn cool. So let's take a look at some more examples. So here is one that looks like this. It's an E minor, A minor, B, and that B was a dominant 7. It was a B major. And then I came back to E minor at the end. So what was that? That was a 1, a 4, a 5, and the 5 was a major with the dominant 7, and then back to the 1. So there we see a 5 major. But let's look at another example. Oh, I don't know. We could do E minor, B minor, C, D, E minor. And what do we have there? We have 1, 5 minor, 6, 7, 1. So there we have a 5 minor. That's the one that naturally pops out of the minor scale. One more example. We can take a E minor, a C, a D, and an E minor. What does that give us? 1, 6, 7, 1. 1 minor, 6 major, 7 major, 1 minor. So as for the question I asked earlier, is it ever okay to just think about the minor chord in the major? Well, if you're using those weird chords that come out of the harmonic minor scale, I highly doubt that thinking in the major key will ever be useful in any way, shape, or form. I could totally be wrong, and if I'm wrong, you can go in the comments and be like, Zach, you're wrong, and I would be like, okay. But I don't suggest it. I don't recommend it. If you are playing in the minor key and you have a lot of like 1, 4, 5, 1 stuff that's very, tonic, dominant, subdominant, that very, very concrete like that, I would also not recommend thinking in the major key. But I do think that there is a time and a place for that. In a lot of pop music, you actually don't, when you're in the minor key, you don't get a lot of 4s. You don't get a lot of 5s. You get the 1. You might get a 3, but you get a lot of 6s and a lot of 7s. So if we're in E minor, we're going to get a lot of C and a lot of D, and then we're going back to E minor. For me, it is much easier for me to think about that as 4, 5, 6 minor than it is to think about it as 6, 7, 1. So in those songs that don't use those harmonic notes and don't really have a lot of like 1, 4, 5, a lot of, tonic, dominant, subdominant garbage going on that just kind of hang out with the 6 and the 7 and the 1. I do often think about those as 4 major, 5 major, and 6 minor, as opposed to 6 major, 7 major, and 1 minor. And this actually goes well with what we kind of see in a lot of pop music, a lot of non-classical music. The tonal center of songs kind of changes sort of, fluidly between the relative minor and the relative major, such that they're still using the same notes, but they do switch the tonal center. To give you an example, last time, in my last video, I made a joke about the song Wonderwall by whoever that song's by. And that's obviously the song that everyone hates and the song that no one actually wants to play. And I was like, no, don't play Wonderwall. But if I remember correctly, and I've never actually heard the song, I've just heard people play it. It starts on a, let's do it in E minor. It starts on an E, and then we'll go to a G, and then we go to a D, and then we go to an A. Right? So we could think about this as 1 minor, 3, 7, and then 4 major. Normally 4 is minor. We have something interesting going on here. Normally in the minor key 4 would be minor. Here we have a major. Don't worry about it. So we get this. Today is gonna be the day, da 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 da. Right? Very minor key. The center of it is right there on that E minor. But what is the chorus? And maybe the chorus is C, G, D. right? And actually, I don't know if that's right or not, and I don't even give enough of a crap to actually look. If it's not right, then this is a very common thing in pop music, so just pretend it is right. Anyway, you can think about this in the minor key if you want, and that would be 6, 3, 7. But that doesn't really make a lot of sense. 6, 3, 7, what the crap is that? But if we were to think about that in the major key, we would have what? 5. That's not a 5. 4, 1, 5. 4, 1, 5 makes a lot more sense than 6, 3, 7. So you could think about the song as constantly going, modulating between the minor and the major and the minor and the major. Or you could just kind of think about the minor and the major as just kind of being different places that the same set of notes can center on. And if the song that you're playing is like that, it's totally okay to think about a minor chord progression in terms of the major scale. Well, folks, this concludes the crash course in music theory. And it has indeed been a crash course. We've covered a lot. We have covered, and I think I've listed them all here, what an octave is, what the chromatic scale is, what whole steps and half steps are, the major scale intervals, the chords you can make with those intervals, the seventh chords that you can make from those chords, the chords that naturally occur within the major scale, a little intro to functional harmony, and now we have learned about the minor scale, the harmonic minor scale, the chords that we get from both of them, and different ways to think about function and chord progressions in the minor key. We've done a lot, and it is an emotional moment for me right now. That's not true at all. It's not emotional for me at all. Anyway, if you have any questions or comments or concerns or rants or complaints or I hate you messages or love letters, you can send them to me either through private message or in the comments, and I should be able to get back to you. If I can't get back to you, then I'm sorry, but I should be able to, because right now no one watches my videos, so we shouldn't have a problem. Anyway, with the completion of this series, I can now get started on more interesting topics. The next series, the first series I'm going to do, will probably be called Jazz for the Rest of Us, where I'll talk about jazz concepts that you can use in rock and blues and stuff. I'm also probably going to do a right-hand acoustic guitar right-hand techniques series, video series thing. If you have an idea of something that you would like me to cover, something that you would like to learn from me, let me know, and I will do my best to do it. So, thank you so much for watching, and we got a lot more stuff coming soon.